Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Today we're talking about Christopher Nkunku because the breaking news surrounding him and Chelsea right now is that a move is pretty much agreed in principle for the striker to move to Chelsea at the end of the season in 2023, as Todd Boehly and Chelsea are making some really big moves and they're getting them out the way and done with pretty quickly. They're already planning for the future of Chelsea. If you've been paying attention to Chelsea, they've been making some really interesting and intriguing moves for the future of their football club, and to already pave a way of a plan towards future success and sustainable success at that. And Christopher Nkunku, if obviously reports and rumours and everything are to be believed today, is a part of those plans. We're going to be talking more about this potential move that's going to transpire in 2023. We're going to be talking all about Nkunku, Chelsea, the things that are happening with everything surrounding Chelsea right now, including this deal. But before we get into all of that, I would like to remind you, please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always incredibly greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get into this news surrounding Christopher Nkunku, who today allegedly has taken a one massive step closer to joining Chelsea at the end of the season. Now, you'll remember, of course, that throughout the previous summer, this summer just gone, Nkunku was subject to much transfer speculation. Chelsea themselves, again, were listed along with a lot of other teams that were interested in securing his services for the season and for beyond that point. Nkunku had made a big name for himself in the Bundesliga, playing for RB Leipzig. He'd obviously had a very successful season during the last campaign, and obviously he was heavily thought about by a lot of clubs, and obviously that interest has transpired and grown across many of Europe's top clubs. And like I say, Chelsea were one of those teams that were interested. The quite surprising part of the story was that the move never happened. A move for Nkunku never transpired this past summer, and largely it was down to him staying at RB Leipzig, which was a bit of a surprise in itself. And then there was this story that he'd signed a new deal. Very surprising, but at the same time, what was even more surprising and more eye-catching was the release clause. Allegedly, there is a €60 million release clause that can be activated at the end of this current season for Nkunku. Now, it seemed a bit weird at the time because obviously there was a lot of money that was being talked about and being thrown about for Nkunku's services this past summer. 60 million doesn't seem, as daft as it sounds, it doesn't seem a lot for a player of his stature and his ability. So it does seem a little bit weird and a little bit strange on Leipzig's part that they would decide to try and keep him. Maybe he seems more valuable to keep for one more season than he would be to sell on at the end of that campaign, and especially for the €60 million that's being talked about. It does seem a little bit strange to me, but there are obviously probably bigger things in play that's going to happen. Obviously, I know that Leipzig, we know, are a kind of team that helps build these kinds of players. They're a kind of stepping stone team, if you like, especially those in the Bundesliga. If you're not Bayern Munich, you're a stepping stone team towards bigger and better things, and Leipzig definitely are that, hence why Leipzig have lost several key players over the past several years, and Nkunku seems to be the latest in the line of that. The news today, though, about Nkunku and about a move to Chelsea transpiring and moving one step closer comes from Fabrice Hawkins. Now, after doing a bit of research and a bit of other video checking and other kind of things surrounding this, I found out that he is the guy who not only broke the news of Kalidou Koulibaly going to Chelsea this past summer, but he also was the one to break substantial and big news surrounding Wesley Fofana agreeing a deal in principle to sign for Chelsea also in that same summer. So he does have a bit of credibility in the bank when he broke this story earlier today. But he basically took to Twitter to say agreement in principle between Christopher Nkunku and Chelsea for a transfer next summer. The striker passed his medical examination, but not in Frankfurt, as indicated by the German press. Chelsea are ready to lift the €60 million buy clause. Liverpool are there too. Now again, I think Liverpool were rumoured to be interested this past summer, but of course none more so than Chelsea, who were kind of ridiculed a lot for obviously their transfer dealings and losing several of their targets to Barcelona and so on and so forth. But they have made some big waves and some interesting waves at that in the transfer window that have slightly gone under the radar, I'd say, and it's been mainly built around their youth players and their youth setup, which I'll go into more into detail a little later. But this all kind of all fits together, and Nkunku being 24 obviously is going to be a big part of Chelsea's future that they're of course building towards. Obviously this news was jumped on by the likes of Fabrice Romano and so on and so forth, so yes, it does have a bit of credibility to this, that Nkunku has indeed gone for a medical for Chelsea, and it looks like Chelsea are very much in one step closer, shall we say, to securing a long-term deal for Nkunku going forward, for the deal to be completed at the end of the season in 2023. It obviously relies on deal structure, whether or not Chelsea want to kind of lift that release clause that he's said to have in his contract, which according to obviously Hawkins is going to be lifted, but we'll wait and see on that. But what will they be getting? They'll be getting basically a player who is quite versatile in the sense that he can play as a second striker, can play as the main striker, can play just off the striker, and can also be deployed on the wing should he be required to. So he is quite versatile in that aspect, which, as I've said time and time again, I think if you are to survive at the real top level of the game, you do need to have a good amount of versatility about you. This guy certainly has it, but it's about his ability, his technique, and his goal scoring that of course Chelsea have are wanting overall. Basically, this guy has really come into his own these past couple of years, whilst playing for RB Leipzig, whilst being in the Bundesliga. Of course, Leipzig may be one of the top teams in Germany, not the top elite team. Obviously, that is currently filled by Bayern Munich, but they are one of the better teams. But at the same time, Nkunku has managed to stand out for his goal scoring. Last season, he made 34 appearances in the Bundesliga. He scored 20 goals and assisted 15 times. He also scored 11 goals across both European competitions that Leipzig were involved in. 7 goals in the 6 group stage games of the 6 group stage games in the Champions League for Leipzig. When he went down into the Europa League, he managed to score 4 goals in that competition. So he's got a fantastic goal scoring record in both the Bundesliga and across the Champions League as well, which is just fantastic for someone of his age of 24, and also just fantastic overall. He also registered 15 assists last season for Leipzig, so he's also a pretty good creator as well. Fantastic goals contribution record there in terms of both goals and assists. And already this season, he may have only played in, may have only made 7 appearances for Leipzig overall in the Bundesliga, but he has scored 4 goals so far during this campaign. So it seems like his goal scoring record is continuing, and it wasn't just a bit of a one-season wonder. So everything seems to be falling into place for that. Like he said, Liverpool are there or thereabouts as well, and of course that this news could spur Liverpool into making some sort of 11th hour move for him, if that obviously is to be the case, and everything does seem to be done and dusted and almost wrapped up. But we'll have to wait and see whether or not that obviously transpires or not. If we are going to go on it as Chelsea have pretty much got this deal secured, and let's face it, they do seem to pretty much have this deal secured, it's a fantastic signing. We knew that obviously Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang coming in this summer was going to be a bit of a stopgap. They missed out on a few of their big transfer targets, especially in the attacking third. Aubameyang comes in, he's a stopgap, he's going to be there for a couple of years, he'll move on. That's just how it would work. Chelsea would go for someone more long term at the end of the campaign when the market is pretty much fresh again, which, as we know, is happening here. the early nature of this move isn't rather surprising either. Teams wanting to get this kind of big deal just done and dusted, wrapped under, so they can focus on the next thing is kind of natural and should be seen as natural. Obviously, a move of this caliber and a move of this magnitude being done pretty quickly could also catch other teams off guard, could also help Chelsea move on to other targets and see and just basically get a clearer picture of how their future transfer activity will look. Should obviously everything be given the green light, the go ahead, and everything get across the line, so to speak, for this deal to be completely done, dusted, made official, whatever you want to call it. So everything's just moving pretty nicely, and I think that obviously with everything that I've said, the credibility of the source and everything, I think everything should be pretty optimistic if you're a Chelsea fan. Pretty happy if you're a Chelsea fan that everything is moving in that direction. And like I said earlier, he's just another piece of this puzzle that Todd Boehly and Chelsea are putting together right now. Boehly obviously has come in. It's not all been plain sailing since his arrival. There have been a few things here and there that have kind of gone askew, and obviously he's had to sort of learn how the English game is and learn how obviously everything works, and obviously how Chelsea was set up beforehand. He's had to change everything and things. But if you look at obviously the way he is basically strolled in and he's put his stamp here on things very early, very officially, and how he wants to kind of move things along with Chelsea. And obviously he's just a businessman, he's got money on his mind, he's money orientated and everything. With the way that he's changing Chelsea, all the backrooms things that you hear about constantly, or everything that he's changing about the coaches, about the sports scientists, technical directors, everything along those lines that will not only help Chelsea on the pitch but also off the pitch as well. It's all sounds very good. It all sounds very long-lasting, self-sustaining. It all sounds very, very good in terms of Chelsea's future, and not just money making and obviously all that kind of stuff, but also in terms of success off on the pitch as well. So it all sounds pretty good from that point of view. Obviously it has to work, and the proof will be in the pudding on that later on down the line. If this all works out, you can always see this kind of thing falling short, however short that may be. But it does sound pretty good. Everything that Todd Boehly is putting together right now does sound pretty good if you're a Chelsea fan. And it may not be the most fan favourite of moves. Sacking Thomas Tuchel, for example, may not be the most fan favourite of move, but it does seem like it was something that he wanted to kind of do when he walked in. He just didn't really have the kind of ammunition to do that, shall we say. But if it works, it could be a stroke of genius. Graham Potter coming in again, this whole sort of youth thing that Chelsea are doing. They brought in a lot of youth players in the summer. They're of course boosting their academy like they always have done. Chelsea, they've always put a lot of time and effort into the academy, whether that's just for making money down the line where they can just sell these youth players on, or whether a few of them can actually make it into the senior team, like your Reece Jameses, like your Mason Mounts, and so on and so forth. It's all looking very good for Chelsea right now. Like I say, the proof will be in the pudding later on down the line whether this works or not. But Christopher Nkunku just seems to be another piece of that puzzle, another piece of that long-lasting, long-standing puzzle that Todd Boehly is currently putting together right now for Chelsea. And like I say, I think if you're a Chelsea fan, you've got to be optimistic and you've got to be very excited about what the future will hold for your club in terms of being very successful in terms of the financial gain, very successful in terms of the young prospects that you're going to be bringing through the academy, as well as the young prospects that you're going to be getting from other areas as well, mainly the kind of teams like your Leipzigs, like your Dortmunds, that obviously produce these young players and you just cherry pick the best ones. And obviously on the pitch as well, with the players that you have there, Graham Potter coming in, he's obviously had a lot of the, well, maybe not in terms of silverware success, but a lot of kind of success in a sort of overachieving term, working with youngsters. It's one of the like positive things on like his CV and everything that builds him up as a very good manager. It's all coming together, and you can kind of see the sort of bigger picture, I guess, that Todd Boehly has constantly talked about and constantly said that he would try and change at Chelsea going forward. Like I say, whether it works or not is another thing. Whether like this Nkunku thing actually does get pulled off or not is another thing. Maybe Liverpool are waiting in the wings to pounce, but at the moment it looks very good. And like I say, if I can go back to the main point, Christopher Nkunku to Chelsea looks to be pretty much a done deal. A deal that is said to be dealt in principle. A deal that I think is a fantastic signing. Like I say, I think his goal scoring in the Bundesliga is fantastic. I know that I've said that before about certain Bundesliga players, and especially ones that Chelsea have bought. Timo Werner. Sorry. But at the same time, you know, not all are going to flop like that. And maybe, like I say, under Graham Potter, maybe with a new direction, a new way of thinking, I think maybe this one will work. And it, like I say, it all looks rather promising for Chelsea. But as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the news surrounding Chelsea and Christopher Nkunku right now? Will he be on his way to Stamford Bridge at the end of the season? Will this be a sort of pre-contract agreement for the end of the campaign? Or will someone like Liverpool, or maybe someone else that's waiting in the wings, pounce on this? Chelsea fans, what are your thoughts on the current direction of Chelsea, the way that Todd Boehly's taking you in and everything along those lines? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings from anybody and everybody about this topic, about this potential deal down below in the comment section. I'm sure it'll make interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video.